Can you just tell me what's going on? I find this story to be somewhat tedious at this point because as I said to start the show, if you and I were negotiating this would be done by now.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I will share with you my thoughts on negotiation and why I just can't stand everything that I'm reading and hearing right now. But I want to mention something that Aaron Rodgers said a week or so ago that really resonated with me. He said to those people who are complaining that they're hearing too much about the story, that that they're talking too much about the story, that Aaron is saying too much, he said, so stop reading. Stop listening. If you're tired of hearing me talk, if you're tired of reading about what I'm saying, stop listening, stop reading. I thought that was wise advice.
I think it's great advice, and I think that what Brent Musburger said in the first hour was really apropos, which is it's March Madness, and all we're talking about is Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and as to your negotiation point, I have a very, very different approach to negotiations than most people. We always hear that phrase, let's sit across the table from one another and negotiate. Well, if the goal is to get a deal, how about we sit next to one another and we collaborate? If the goal of a negotiation is to get a deal, it doesn't need to be a quid pro quo. It doesn't need to be a tit for tat. You sit down. Suzy shares, here's what's important to me in the negotiation, Aim. I say, here's what's important to me in the negotiation or in the deal, Suzy, because we don't need to negotiate. If something's important to you and I don't care about it, have it. And please do the same for me. And we're going to figure this out. I can't stand the posturing. I can't stand the quid pro quo. If the goal is to make a deal, collaborate and make a deal. Each party to this jigsaw puzzle, if you will, has a play that he or that it can make. The Jets, the Packers, Aaron, just sit down and collaborate and make a deal.
I have so many questions for you, Amy Trask. First of all, who has the leverage?
Well, everybody has a piece of strength, I will say, in the deal. The Packers have a player under contract that the Jets want. The Jets are looking to take off the Packers' financials a player they no longer want. Aaron can say to the Packers, be reasonable with the team I want to go to, or by the way, I'm coming back and I'll see you. And everybody's going to push back and say, Amy, he's not really going to do that. Well, maybe he won't, but he can. And everybody's going to say, well, the Packers don't want to give him up for a little bit. Well, would they rather have him show up? And the Jets aren't going to want to give up too much. Okay, how much is too much? If everybody just takes a deep breath and recognize that each one of these parties has some strength they bring to the discussion, and each party has some weakness. The Jets clearly want him. Aaron clearly wants to go there. The Packers clearly want him gone. Sit down and make a deal.
Why wouldn't the Jets have done all of that before they got on the plane to come out here?
That's a great question. I don't know if they tried and got nowhere. I don't know if they didn't try. I don't know if it was an oversight. I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if it was an ownership-driven strategy or a management-driven strategy, if it was a strategy at all, or if it was an oopsies.
So if
That's a technical legal term I learned in law school. Oopsies.
Oopsies, yeah. I thought that was something that you probably got with your JD. If you were advising Al, and this is Al, what would you tell him?
Well, first of all, Your Honor, objection that assumes facts not in evidence, that Al would have accepted any advice in this situation. But you're right. I certainly would have tried. And I would have said this, find a way to make a deal. If you know what you're willing to give, don't play games. If you know what you're willing to give and they're going to take it, fine. If they're not, soul search, decide if you're willing to give some more. And if you're not, you better have a plan B.
Amy Trask here on The Rich Eisen Show. Suzy Shuster in for Rich, who has been pacing around the house about this. And I've heard Brockman going after him saying, just give him the picks, do whatever, make it happen. Rich is, of course, freaking out. You can't give them the picks. They need to build around whoever they're going to have in as QB. But
okay, then the question for you to ask Rich when he's pacing and ranting, although I know he doesn't really
Yes,
rant.
he does. Yes, he does.
Oh, he's ranting.
Oh, he paces and rants and paces.
And ask him, okay, Rich, and do what? If the Jets will not give to the Packers what the Packers want, and if the Packers are unyielding such that the Jets decide not to go forward, and do what? Now, I think the and do what should be, they should be talking to Lamar Jackson as an and do what, or maybe as an and or an or an other than. That whole Lamar Jackson thing is another conversation altogether.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
But the question, Rich, is if the Jets don't get this deal done, they better have asked themselves the question and answered, and do what? And they better have a good answer to that.
It seems to me at this point, all they talk about is, and this is every story, okay, if Aaron Rodgers comes, they're immediately a playoff team, blah, blah, blah. So isn't this a league where business comes first and winning is all that matters? Why wouldn't they just say, screw it?
Depends on the team. 32 different businesses owned by 32 different controlling owners. And I use that expression because it's a league requirement that there be one controlling owner, even when there are multiple owners. All 32 look at that differently. There's a wide revenue gap between the highest revenue clubs and the lowest revenue clubs. So money does take on more of a meaning to some clubs than to others. There's a lot of considerations. I worked for a team owner who was a football man, and that was both a positive and a negative in a financial sense. He wanted to do what he wanted to do without regard to finances, and then it was always, Amy, go find the money. But all the money came from the football team. It wasn't a family where there was wealth in other areas like other teams.
So the Packers and Jets discrepancy should be fairly large, then I would imagine. That's a lot of money for Aaron Rodgers. In terms of
you're talking about what's on the Packers roster. And by the way, everybody keeps saying, to your point you made earlier, and I'm sorry to go back to that and digress, but everybody keeps saying the Packers have all the leverage. The Packers have all the leverage. No, they don't. Neither do the Jets. Neither does Aaron. They each have a piece of strength, and they each have an area where they're going to have to give. Do the Packers really want Aaron coming back and saying, hi, I'm here. First day of school, I'm here. No, a lot of people say Aaron won't do that, and he might well not, but he can.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.